Hello and welcome to another scintillating episode of Big Dog Goes Metal Detecting. Today I've got something special for you. Today we're going to take a deep dive into two competing metal detectors. These are two that are touted as being maybe the best entry-level detectors out there. There are others, but these are two are very popular right now. This is the Vanquish 540, which you know that I've been using since I bought it. And this one is the Nokta Makro Simplex. If you saw my first video, and I'll try and put a card up here, but if you saw my first video, I talked a little bit about how tough a decision I had between these two. And since then, I kind of thought, well, you know what? Why not bring in a Simplex and compare them side by side? And so that's what we're going to do today. So stay tuned. We got a lot to cover. In the meantime, please like and subscribe. I'm going to put something up here, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to start today by talking about the physical attributes of the two machines, the ergonomics, the build quality, the price, features, some things about the features and the layout of the two machines, and sort of compare them in that way first. So let's start with the price. They're very comparable in price. They're pretty close together in price, but the Simplex does get a little bit of an edge because it is just a tad cheaper. The Simplex comes in at, depending on what configuration you buy it in, either $254 without a pair of headphones, or $339 with a pair of wireless headphones, and that is the way I bought this configured for this testing. The Vanquish also comes in two different configurations. The base model for $369 comes with a pair of wired headphones like these right here. That's how I bought the machine. I think I mentioned earlier that I really viewed that as kind of a mistake. For another $130 at $499, you get this machine with a pair of wireless headphones and a second coil, a smaller coil. That's really worth it. So if you are on the fence between two different models of Vanquish, spend the extra money. You'll thank yourself later. In any case, the Simplex does get a little bit of an edge, because when you compare these two machines, $369 with wired headphones, $339 with wireless headphones, have to say that this is the better deal, simply based on price. So we're going to give the Simplex a half a point for that, because they're still pretty close. It's not that big a deal, but half a point for price. Now let's talk about build quality. Very similar. Both units weigh just under 3 pounds, 2.9 pounds each. They both appear to be very well made. Things about the Simplex that I like better in terms of build quality: the Simplex is fully waterproof, including the control module. That's kind of nice. The Vanquish has a waterproof coil, but the control box is not waterproof. It does come with a cover, which I don't have here to show you, but I'll break it out at some point. It comes with a cover to protect it from rain, but you're not taking this one swimming with you, okay? Won't last long if you try that game. So that's a drawback to this one, and for that, the Simplex gets a point, okay? Another main difference that I've just sort of discovered in getting to know these two machines is that the Simplex, because I think of the way it's designed, has a distinct wobble in the shaft when you extend it out all the way, or close to all the way. It is noticeable, and I don't like it. It makes the machine feel cheap to me. That's just me. I think the reason is that there are two pivot points. There's one here and there's one here where two tubes extend to bring it out to its full length. And when you do that, those two pivot points definitely have a good bit of play. And when you're swinging the Simplex, it will kind of rock back and forth, which is a little disconcerting. And like I said, I don't really like it very much. The Vanquish does not have that problem. First off, there's only one pivot point on the main shaft. It's right here. The second extension is back behind the control box and extends your elbow rest out behind the machine. So, and on top of that, the shaft just appears to be just a little bit tighter and a little bit nicer quality in that there is no wobble with this machine. I can extend it out all the way for me. I'm 6 foot, and so I need a nice long one so that I'm not stooping over when I'm swinging the machine. And this one extends out very nicely and does not wobble. So that's a big deal to me. So I'm giving 2 points to the Vanquish over that. I like the look of the straight shaft. It looks really good, but this, in this case, is a better design. Just that simple. Both are a little nose heavy with the stock coil, and really this goes more into ergonomics, which we're going to cover next. But they are both kind of noticeably nose heavy when you're swinging them, and in fact, to the point where I felt the need to do something about that. When you put the smaller coil on there, because I did buy the smaller coil for the Vanquish, then that goes away. And it's a very nicely balanced machine with the 8-inch coil on the Vanquish. But with this 12-inch coil, it's just a little heavy. Same thing with the Simplex. This is an 11-inch coil, and with this on there, it is definitely nose heavy. It's noticeably nose heavy. Not that big a deal, but it's there. What else have I got? Okay, so another difference in build quality between the two units, and we've already talked about the headphones, wireless versus wired. However, the Vanquish headphone comes with this very thin, dare I say, delicate wire. And while mine hasn't been a problem yet, I can see this being a weak point that will break. And since the wire is hardwired into the headphone, there's no just replacing this cable. You'll end up having to replace the headphones when it breaks. So that's kind of a bummer, and that's a difference. And so I give half a point to the Simplex for that. Not such a good deal on the cable here. I think they could have done better with that. But these are inexpensive machines. If this was a $900 metal detector like the Equinox or the Amphibio, then you'd really have something to complain about. But we're talking entry-level machines here at very entry-level pricing. So you got to expect things like this. So you got things like this. Okay, ergonomics. They both feel really good in the hand. They have excellent handles, both of them. The handles on both of these are just excellent. Nice soft rubber, very grippy. They fit good in the hand. They're at a good angle, so they're comfortable. No complaint about either handle. If I have to choose one that I like better, I think that the Simplex has a little bit of a shape here, which is kind of nice, but it's a very marginal difference, and you might prefer this one. So I didn't even give any points either way on the handle. That's really good. They both collapse down to a very small size for transport. That is great. Look how small these both get. The Simplex is the smallest of the two. Gets really nice and short. You can put it in your car or stow it away at home, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. That's a really nice feature for both of them. They're both sort of equal in that regard. Now we get to adjustments. The Vanquish is very simple to adjust for different size people. Okay? If you're a big guy like me, you can extend it out all the way. This elbow rest goes, let me go ahead and show you that. But you can push that all the way out in the back here like that. It's a simple lock, okay? And you can adjust that to any size for any size person. Children, smaller statured people, women, whatever. Very simple, nice feature. The Simplex isn't quite so simplex, okay? It really does, because it's a straight shaft, it really doesn't have much of an adjustment at all. You can adjust this elbow rest forward about an inch. That's about all the play you have on this one. And in order to do so, you've got to remove 3 screws, okay? Then you can shift it forward, and then you have to find, it wasn't easy, line up those screw holes so you can put 2 of the screws back. The 3rd screw I've got stuck in the back here so I don't lose it. But that's all the adjustments you have. So it's a little bit less flexible if you're going to be trading this unit between people. You're going to share it with your kid out on the beach or out in the field. The Vanquish really, that's a big plus on the Vanquish. So for that, the Vanquish gets a 1.5. Very easily adjustable for any size person to use. The Simplex, not quite so much. On both of them, the controls, the buttons are easy to figure out. They're easy to see. They're very responsive. You push on them, they click. They're very nice. The screens on both are laid out very well. They're intuitive, and they're both easy to use. So they're both equal in that regard. Both units have a backlit screen, and that's kind of nice. If you get out where it's a little bit darker outside, you can light the screen to make it easier to see. They both have that. The Vanquish is a little bit easier to use for a beginner. Okay, now this is where the difference would be between a beginner and an advanced beginner or intermediate detectorist. The beginner will find this one to be very easy to use because it's basically a turn on and go machine. You turn it on, it goes through a little routine to boot up. Once it's booted up, you start swinging, you're detecting. Okay? It's really all there is to it. This one, the Simplex, is, while it's also very easy, I mean, it's not called a Simplex for nothing, but it is just a little bit more fiddly. This one needs to be ground balanced, okay? And this one does not. It's just a little bit more fiddly. Not much more. If anybody could really learn it, it's not that big a deal, but the Vanquish is easier. So that gets a point for the Vanquish for that. Okay, features. They both have, each one has features that the other one doesn't have. Okay, for instance, the Simplex has a vibrate feature. If you are someone who has a hard time hearing the beeps, or if you like to work in the water and you've got this thing underwater and you can't hear the speaker, and by the way, before I go into that, it's worth noting that these headphones are not waterproof, so you're not going swimming with these. So for that, the Simplex has a vibration feature where you turn it on and the handle literally vibrates when it runs over a target. That's kind of a nice feature. The Vanquish does not have that. Of course, you're not taking this swimming in the water anyway. But if you are someone who has difficulty hearing, you might be more interested in this machine over the Vanquish because it does not have that. That gives the Simplex a point. Another thing the Simplex has that the Vanquish does not is an LED flashlight built in. Not sure how useful that really is. I'm going to be testing that to see how much light it really throws.
I suppose it could be helpful. I'm giving a half a point at the moment. I might adjust that down the road when I see how good it or how useful it might be. But it does have a flashlight. The Vanquish does not. So half a point to the Simplex. The Simplex, as we've already noted, come with the wireless headphones versus the wired, and since that's a feature, I'm giving a half a point to the Simplex on that feature. The Simplex comes with a hat. You gotta love the hat, okay? That's worth a quarter of a point, all right? Hat. And then the big feature that the Vanquish has that the Simplex doesn't have is that the Vanquish is a multi-frequency machine. They call it multi-IQ. It cycles between a few different frequencies. So when one frequency isn't working so well, based on the ground conditions, it shifts to the other two, and really does. And this is why the Vanquish does such a good job on the beach. And also would be very good in mineralized soil. And we're going to see that test, both beach and mineralized soil, later on. We're going to test that theory. But in theory, the Vanquish is going to do better in those conditions. The Simplex is what's called a VLF machine, a very low frequency machine. It has one frequency. This is one of the reasons that ground balancing becomes critical with this machine. It is allegedly not so good on the beach, but other people say it does great on the beach, and it all depends on how you set it up. And that goes back to being a little bit fiddly. But we're going to test that stuff out and come up with a real answer on that. But because this is multi-IQ, that's a big one. Gets a point and a half for that. Point and a half for multi-IQ. That is the new technology. Some of the more expensive machines have it. The Equinox have that. I know Garrett has just come out with their first multi-frequency machine. The XPs are multi-frequency, but you have to choose your frequency in advance. It uses one frequency at a time, whereas this, because it's multi-IQ, it'll cycle between the frequencies, and that's a really nice feature, and it's a real improvement in technology, I think, and it's one of the reasons I chose this machine as my first machine. So a point and a half for that. So that gives us all told so far 4.25 points for the Simplex, 6 points for the Vanquish. Still pretty close, and it's anybody's game. It's going to be the testing that's going to tell the difference between the two, and we're going to get into that next. Okay, so we're going to start the testing of these two machines with just a simple air test and see how they do comparatively. And I realize that this doesn't really tell us much about what's going to happen in real conditions in the ground, but it will give us a good comparison to go by between these two machines. We'll move on to ground tests after this, but we're going to start with air test today. Now we're going to start, let me just adjust that a little bit. We're going to start with the Simplex, and it is in field mode, which is the Simplex's deepest mode. I have ground balanced the machine. You can see here that I've got it set up. This is perpendicular to the surface. This measure, which starts at 20 and is an inch measure. The reason I started as 20 is because each end of this measure has a little metal tab on it. I wanted to get them as far away from the coil as possible. As I said, the machine has been ground balanced. It is at full sensitivity. In field mode, it is running firmware version 2.78, which is what it came with. A lot of people seem to think that 277 is the better firmware to use. I don't know, but it came with 278, and that's where we're going to test it out of the box. So here we go. I've got a number of items to test it with, starting with a dollar coin. A modern dollar coin. It liked that. Quarter, clad quarter. We've got a clad dime. We've got a clad nickel. We've got a zinc and penny. This is an 18 karat gold men's ring. This is my wedding ring. It's pretty heavy. This is an 18 karat gold ladies' wedding ring. This was actually my mother's wedding ring. This is a solid silver ring. It's got a big honking piece of silver on it, so we're going to see how we do with that. Okay, these are 10 karat gold cufflinks, kind of an odd shape with the chain between them. We'll see how they manage with that. Okay, this is a very thin, very light 14 karat gold chain. We'll see how they manage with that. And this is a very small 14 karat gold earring. Okay, so that's our test items, and let's get started. Here's the dollar coin. Now, I should point out that with the Simplex in field mode, there's only one tone, and as you get further away from the coil, the tone will lower and lower and lower until it disappears. But as you get closer, it gets higher and higher. That's how field mode works. So here we go. Getting pretty scratchy. Still getting something at about, looks like about 9.5. Let's just write that down. Dollar coin, 9.5. Okay, the quarter. Getting scratchy. That's more like 9.25. Dime. That's about 9. Nickel. About the same, about 9.25. The penny. Fairly consistent here. This one looks like about 9.5. Okay, here's the gold ring, the men's gold ring. Scratchy signal at about 11 inches. 18 karat gold ladies ring. Really about 9 inches on that one. Silver ring. About 9.5. Okay. 10 karat gold cufflinks. About 6.5 on that one. Okay, our very light gold chain. Almost nothing. I'm going to call that about 1.5 inches, and I think I'm being generous. The earring. About the same, 1.5 inches. Okay, so now we have the Vanquish set up. The Vanquish is set up in relic mode, which is the Vanquish's deepest mode. You can hear it's just a little bit more chattery. You don't ground balance this machine. It's a preset ground balance. I did run the noise canceling when you turn it on. And this one is running version 1.1. This is the latest firmware version that I just recently installed on it. And we're going to try the same test items. So, start with the dollar coin. I'm going to call that 12.25. Here comes the quarter. Call that 11.5. This is the dime. $10.5. Nickel. Boy, it likes that nickel. I'm saying 13 inches. Okay, here comes a penny. That's 11. 18 karat gold ring. Men's ring. Oh, 14 inches. 18 karat ladies ring. Calling that 13.5 inches. Silver ring. $10.5. Cufflinks. $10.5 inches. Try our very light gold chain. Okay, it doesn't like that at all. I can nada. That's a 0. How about our earring? That is also a 0. So I'm going to put these numbers on the screen for you, but it seems pretty clear from this test at any rate that the Vanquish is a deeper sensing machine than the Simplex by a few inches. So those are very interesting results, and we'll see if they bear out when we start doing the dirt tests.
This concludes part 1 of our Simplex Vanquish knockdown. Right now it's looking pretty good for the Vanquish, but that could change in part 2. There's a lot of heavy tests coming up in part 2, so don't miss them. We'll see you there, and in the meantime, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.